that effort. And for some reason, I am still hosting Elcanu as much as I like him. All right, let's just take a second and see where the video's at. Okay, looks like we are ready to go. So apparently, I went from 1,400 followers to 1,397 for not casting this week. That's what I get for. That's what I get for not being regular, I guess. Still not quite where I want it to be, so sorry guys. I think what I'll do is I'll hold off a little bit. I'll make sure all the settings are where they need to be. Hey, Johnny Big Time, how you doing, my friend? You should hopefully be able to shout yourself out. Every time I tab out of this game, it stops the audio and it stops the video. So, oh, for God's sake. I'm trying to line up all the windows to sort of a look that I want, and so far it's not being agreeable. Oh, for God's sake. Hello, Subject Panic. Excellent. Thank you very much, Johnny Big Time. Revelations expansion now available for AC What's AC Recollection? All right. I'm literally jumping into this. So I will admit I have played. Johnny Big Time is pretty goddamn tremendous. So for those of you who don't know Johnny Big Time, and again, I feel like I should really wait before I give the full. I think I'm going to do subtitles just because I know some people like to see that. I think this is where I wanted it to be. Yeah. I don't have 3D vision, so. Maka, thank you very much for that, host. So Johnny Big Time's actually one of the major reasons why I'm playing this, and I thought about running it a couple of times. First of all, sorry guys for missing Wednesday and Friday. Wednesday was, I had a bunch of work stuff that I needed to do, so I held off from doing my normal cast. And then Friday, I actually had an intention to do a nice long cast on Friday, but I wound up being out of the apartment longer than I was expecting. For those of you, there's a couple of people who know about this, but I occasionally do sort of private casts for people. Don't feel left out if you didn't know about them, because it's usually an individual thing. I sometimes preview stuff, so if you guys want to know what that does, that was actually what made me decide to do Wolfenstein: The New Order, because there's a bunch of games which I want to play, which I haven't because I think they'll be good for the cast. So a great example of this would be Doom. Okay, I own Doom. I think Doom looks great. I did like the introduction to Doom in one of those private casts, and like the person I was showing it to was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing. Yes, you need to do this on cast." And I was cracking a bunch of jokes during Wolfenstein: The New Order with the exact same person. So I've noticed that some of those casts give me a good sort of testing ground to see whether or not it's something worth kind of putting the effort into. So I've slowly started expanding the pool a little bit. And again, it's not they're not like official casts. They're just sort of like, a chance to maybe catch up with a friend, or just sort of show somebody who I think might enjoy a game. It's like, hey, let's take a look at this, and it gives me a chance to sort of prototype a few things. There's less pressure to like constantly be talking. Sometimes it's just a question of hanging out. But that's where that's coming from. So I wound up doing one of those on Friday. I wanted to go to a comedy thing, which I actually made it to, and it was the most terminally unfunny thing I've ever seen. I felt really bad. Like, I think it was from like 9:30 to 12, and like I think I laughed twice. Now I'm not one of those guys who's gonna start heckling. I don't really like that sort of thing, because it's hard to do. Like, imagine standing up to a group of people and trying to make them laugh. Like, I have a lot of respect for the fact that people did that, but like it was it was not good. And then like they drop on me at the very end of the evening. It's like, oh, it's cash only. I'm like, well, you got a Visa sign on the front door, and the sign didn't say cash only. So I basically had to argue to like walk out and get money from an ATM, and like they demand you have to use the one on the corner. I'm like, I'm not using some dodgy like ATM, you know, that's gonna charge me a fee because you decided to make this cash only. Like, I'm going to my bank, which is 2 blocks up the street. If you don't like that, that's your problem. But anyways, that's fine. I don't need to go back. So needless to say, I regret not casting, but I decided what I will do. I'm actually going to try and do 2 casts tonight. So we're going to do Assassin's Creed. If you guys really like it, we might actually just follow up with more Assassin's Creed. Or the other thing we might do is go back to Deus Ex on or later on in the evening. But let's get some hellos out of the way. So hello, Johnny Big Time, Subject Panic. Anybody else who's lurking in the background, we will be starting the gameplay pretty shortly. Johnny Big Time, oh, Rambler146, thank you very much for the auto host. So sorry, it was Maka, Docs Gaming, D Raven, Rambler146 who gave us the auto hosts. And Johnny Big Time is absolutely the guy who I have to shout out every single time he comes in. Guy, his cast is slowly growing, and I know he's looking to sort of expand it out. I'm actually going to be writing an article on Jesse Quill. Thank you so much for that host. It looks like another shout out that I'm going to have to do. And Shane Fit, thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for that auto host as well. Johnny Big Time is definitely one of these guys who I think, in addition to being incredibly hardworking on his cast, has probably got to be one of the most consistent people in terms of the amount that he casts, the quality of his cast, and the level of gameplay that he does. He's a hilarious caster. I love dropping his clips whenever I shout him out, and I regret that when I alt-tab out of this game, the visuals like freeze. He is hilarious. He's great at the games that he plays, and he has got an incredible taste in terms of gaming. And on top of that, he gave me a preview of some of the shows that he's going to be doing coming up. My God, you guys are going to have a blast. If you have not checked him out, there's 2 things that you can do. Number 1, click on his name, and if you don't just click that follow button, you are a scumbag and I hate you. But if you absolutely have to be convinced about it, click on his name, look at his channel, and click on the clips section. If you don't love his cast seeing those clips, you have no soul. He is, again, like I said, every cast is like that. I'm trying to remember the last time that he has had a cast that I have not gotten like a quality clip out of. That's just the kind of guy that Johnny Big Time is. And I mean, again, at some point there's going to be a day where like I'm looking at it and he's like Tuesday Gray. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, but the first time I hosted Tuesday Gray, she had fewer followers than me and she was doing Dark Souls for the first time. She, of course, has since completed all of the Dark Souls series, is partnered, and is currently doing like the Bloodborne DLC for the 2nd time or something like that. And I swear, Johnny Big Time is going to be a point where at a point where I don't know about partnership. I mean, I don't think anybody really knows about partnership anymore. But he's definitely going to be somebody who I'm going to be looking up and hoping that one day he still remembers who I am. So, on top of that, Jesse Quill is in the chat. Jesse Quill is another absolutely outstanding caster, quite different from Johnny, although certainly not when it comes to quality. She's another incredibly talented caster, and I would say where Johnny is consistently fun, funny, and has like a great stable of games that he plays. What makes Jess interesting is that she actually has got that diversity when it comes to subjects of casting. I've seen her do cooking casts, I've seen her do a ton of creative casts. She's somebody who's wonderful at building communities, and actually one of the main reasons why I know Jess is because of sort of her service to the community. She's modded a lot of channels, she's got a lot of people who come in. I always like to say that she is the caster that like the big casters watch. Because there's a lot of people who come through, maybe fewer now than when I first knew her, but I don't really think that indicates anything. She's really a wonderful caster, an absolute sweetheart as a person. Somebody who's given me a lot of advice and has given me a lot of sort of care and attention. She's one of the reasons why I've continued to cast and why the cast sort of took the shape that it did. I know I'm actually very happy to be able to do Assassin's Creed with her as well, because I remember watching her play the Assassin's Creed series, and I know she really likes this game. So she's really an absolutely outstanding individual. She's somebody who, you know, we've got 10 minutes of casting time in, right alongside Johnny Big Time. I love being able to shout out Jessie Quill. I love being able to talk about her talents. She's an incredibly smart individual. I know a lot of you guys are quite attracted to the fact that, you know, when I do Crusader Kings, I'll talk about my thought process, and when I'll talk about economics, or I'll talk about history. And Jess does something very similar. I think she gets a lot less credit for the fact that she does this as well, by the way. But she's got a very sharp mind in terms of psychology. In fact, I've had the pleasure of meeting her, and in the War Museum in Canada, she made a baby cry because she's an awful person. But she did a really wonderful analysis. She was actually able to explain to me, like, once the mom kind of went away, she actually explained in a very credible way why the child started crying, and it was something that I'd never seen before, which I thought was really, it was like, I'd never thought about it, but like, she explained it, and I mean, again, she's very well read on these subjects, and she brings it to a lot of her casts. She actually is able to, she's actually able to incorporate it inside of the gameplay quite a bit more. So of course I remember it. Actually, you know what? I'm sorry guys, I am gonna Alt-Tab out for a second. No, actually, Jess, you can do this. If you would like evidence that I did go to the War Museum with Jessie Quill, Jess, if you could link the photo of you in the World War I aviator outfit. I know Johnny Big Time will probably want to see that because he just finished playing Battlefield 1 single player. How you doing, Glebral Place? Anyways, and Pyrobama, great to see you. So guys, sorry about the late start, but again, these are two absolutely outstanding casters. There's every reason in the world to watch them. You know, like I said, I went from 1,400 follows to 1,397, so I lost 3 people for not casting. And if you're not following, or you have decided that you don't want to follow this cast because I don't get around to playing Assassin's Creed, that's okay. That's what we do here. But these are people who have made my life on Twitch much better, and I think I would be doing myself a great disservice if I didn't acknowledge all the help that they've given me and all the entertainment that they've given me. And more importantly, I love being able to share some quality entertainers with you. I don't always get a chance to host these people at the end of a cast, and so it's wonderful for me to be able to say, you know, verbally to you why these people are wonderful. So, let's do Assassin's Creed. I have played I've played everything up to this one, but I have not played this game. And I thought this would be a really good one to start, 1, because I haven't played the game, but 2, because apparently this one will actually go through all the previous characters, like Altair and Ezio. So it seems like a good one for somebody who doesn't want to completely redo all the Assassin's Creed games. It seems like a good place to start. I don't know. We'll see how far I go. It's been a while since I've actually played an Assassin's Creed game, so I'll probably suck at it. But
we can keep him like this for a few days, maybe a week.
Call ahead. Tell him we're on our way.
As soon as we're clear.
Desmond Miles. Your life has changed so much in so little time. 2 months ago, you were pouring shots for bankers and celebrities. But now look at you. You're an assassin. One of us. One of the good guys. Isn't that nice? Men and women dedicated to protecting and preserving human life and liberty. Not like those Templars. Cold and calculating autocrats, drunk on power, obsessed with order, all that. We're doing our best to stop them. Yeah. Doing our best. But you remember all this, right? You remember the Animus, the machine we used to unravel genetic memories and relive the lives of our ancestors? First, you were Altair, a stoic 12th century assassin from the Holy Land. Then, you were Ezio Auditore, a wealthy Italian with charisma and a talent for revenge. So, what do you 3 have in common? That's right, the Apple of Eden. That strange artifact left behind by those people. The ones who came before. You know the apple's power. You felt it for yourself. Oh, it's been fun, hasn't it, Desmond? But that's about to change. Your mind is fragmented, falling to pieces. And if you don't find a way to wake up, you may lose yourself. Forever.
Okay, I shut down the Animus monitoring system to free up a lot of memory, but even like this, it's still risky.
Desmond will be fine. The partition worked, the Animus is stable, and his signs are good.
For now. But this was built to recreate memories, not simulate entire cognitive processes.
The Animus will do its part, and Desmond will do the rest.
What's happening? I can't move. I can't. No! Hello?
All right. So just quick hellos to the people who I didn't want to talk over the game with. We've got Jeff DeHef here, and we've got Morty. Welcome. I think I already said hi to Pyrobama, but if I didn't, hello to you as well. I'll make a confession about. I'll actually make a confession about the Assassin's Creed games. I've never been thrilled about the modern day story. I don't dislike it, if that makes any sense. I don't think it's bad, but one thing that I'll point out here is that I'm accepting a world in which there is a secret, battle between the Templars and the Assassins. That human history has been shaped by these ancient or alien artifacts, and that there are, these near supernatural operatives fighting this war, which has largely shaped, the course of human events. And for me, that's sufficient for a wild historical story. I don't need to motivate it by saying that I'm actually going through the memories of ancestors. And Jess actually talked with me a little bit about why she finds it interesting from a biological point of view. But perhaps that's another discussion. But yeah, I've always felt that it was a little... it was sort of like this appendix. It was something that I never felt that... it was something that I never felt was all that important. But do I have the DLC for this? I have no idea, Morty. But yeah, I mean, I actually originally got into this game thinking it was a story of historical fiction.
Just walk right past me.
16?
No, they didn't tell you my name.
God damn it, I'm still in the Animus?
What a shock you suffered out there.
Rebecca! Get me out of here.
They can't help you, Desmond. You're a broken man. Your mind, it's... broken.
Broken? I feel fine.
So did I. Hey. Look at me now. Let's talk, buddy. Walk with me.
What is this place?
It's nice, isn't it? We're in the guts of the Animus. The original test program. No memories here, just basic physics, weather simulations. Hello, world. You're lucky someone up there had the sense to plug you in here. It saved your life.
Saved it from what?
Right now, you should be sitting in a hospital ward, drooling and chewing on your tongue. For now, the Animus is keeping you intact. Keeping all your ancestors from collapsing into one big mess. But if you can't find a sync nexus, all those personalities will smash together. That won't be pretty.
A sync nexus?
I'm getting there. Hold on. There. That thing is your way out.
You're screwing with me.
Here's the problem. Your brain is hash. Too many ghosts in your head, too many voices. So how do you fix that? You claw your way back into the stored data, you find unfinished memories, and you crack them open. Finish what you started, until your ancestor has nothing left to show you. That is a sync nexus. And when you find it, the Animus can separate Desmond from Ezio and Altair and send you home. Back to your body.
How do you know all this?
Because it happened to me. But my body, it's worm food now. So I'm stuck here. A word of warning? When you step through there, everything changes. Nothing feels normal. But you are still in control, and it's up to you to find your way out.
Right.
If you hurry, you might make it back in time for Lucy's funeral.
What?
Oh, I thought you knew.
Lucy. Oh, God. I'm so sorry. Wasn't me.
I completely forgot that
Wasn't
that was
me.
how this ended.
It was that voice. Juno. She took hold of me. She made me. What am I doing? What have I done?
That's fine, but I guess the big thing for me, Pyrobomb, is I've never felt that it needs to be motivated. Like, I don't really feel like the Assassin's Creed series needs to motivate connection. So if you've got this story that history has been driven...
Sean, what's going on?
Let me talk to him.
Did you... Hold on, I'm putting you on speaker.
Sean, it's William. Is everything taken care of?
Oh, well, hello to you too. For Christ's sakes, man, have some class.
All right, calm down.
Oh, that's rich. Yeah, Lucy's dead, and you want me to act like it's Easter Sunday, do you? How's Desmond, anyway? Giving in?
That's enough, Sean.
What if he's a Templar, Bill? Eh? What if he's been programmed? It's happened before.
No, not Desmond.
Right. You would say that.
Sean.
But yeah, so like this is one of the big things is that it's actually a good practice. I think Jeff DeHeff can probably tell me film editing wise, or I can maybe say this from writing editing point. One of the things that I notice when I make when I do writing, if I have the time to edit it, I tend to notice that I will go. So this thing that I've been writing about, for lack of a better term, the cam whorecasters, and this idea of what it takes to get success on Twitch. I probably wrote about 3 paragraphs, and then I did a small sort of intermediate edit because I had to walk away from it. I deleted basically all 3 paragraphs and reduced it down to 1 sentence. And so what you actually do is we've seen Assassin's Creed the way that it looks now with the modern story. But in the end, I don't think anybody would have had a game starting in the Middle East and then going to Renaissance Italy, and then maybe going to, even if they went all the way to Syndicate. Oh, I'm not in the portal yet. I don't think anybody would have said, well, that doesn't make sense. How can you just go to another historical era? In fact, even if you picked entirely new characters, or you just said, hey, we're going to take this historical idea and we're going to spin it off into a totally different one, like what they did with Amnesia: Machine for Pigs, I don't think people would have complained. But
Claudia, my dearest sister. I have been in Acre a week now, safe and in high spirits, but prepared for the worst. The men and women who have fed and sheltered me here also give me warning that the road to Masyaf is overrun by mercenaries and bandits, not native to this land. What this could mean, I dread to guess. When I first set out from Roma 10 months ago, I did so with a single purpose: to discover what our father did not. In a letter written the year before my birth, He makes mention of a library hidden beneath the stones of Masyav Castle. A sanctum full of invaluable wisdom. So what will I find when I arrive there? Who will greet me? A host of eager Templars, as I fear most strongly. Or nothing but the whistling of a cold and lonely wind. Masyav has not been home to the assassins for almost 300 years now. Can we still claim it for our own? Are we welcome there? I am wary of this fight, Claudia. Not because I am tired, but because our struggle seems to move in one direction only, towards chaos. Today, I have more questions than answers. This is why I've come so far. To find clarity. To find the wisdom left behind by the great Altair. So that I may better understand the purpose of our fight. And my place in it. Should anything happen to me, Claudia, should my skills fail me, or my ambition lead me astray, do not seek retribution or revenge in my memory, but fight to continue the search for truth, so that all may benefit. My story is one of many thousands, and the world will not suffer if it ends too soon.
I really like that intro. There's actually some things I like about the idea in terms of... Hey, Kite! How are you doing, my friend?
Get him, you fools! Kill that bastard!
Altair ibn Lahad. If one man was ever responsible for changing the face of modern assassins forever, it was this guy, Altair ibn Lahad. Born in the Holy Land in 1165 to parents that he hardly knew, into an order he did not choose, Altair nevertheless proved himself a devoted pupil and a capable fighter before he was out of his teens. In 1189, just as the Third Crusades were gathering steam, Altair stunned even his attentive mentor, Al-Muad'Dim, by almost single-handedly routing a wave of Crusader soldiers from the steps of Masyav Castle. From that day forward, Altair's name was known to all assassins. Over the next 2 years, his reputation as a stubborn but deadly fighter eclipsed every minor detail of his mysterious life. Loved by few but admired by all, his impeccable talents were a source of both his incredible successes and his overbearing arrogance. This was only half the story. Since youth, Altair had shown signs of possessing a rare sixth sense that allowed him unprecedented access to the emotions and intentions of his opponents and allies. Dubbed Eagle Vision by his fellow assassins, Altair honed and perfected this sense in secret, always wondering if this curious ability that set him apart from the rest would prove a liability. Thanks to the memory stored in Altair's 5 Masyav keys, we can now get a good glimpse into the man himself, instead of settling for vague glimpses through the Templar's frankly primitive Animus 1.28 avatar projection system. Lots of opinions on the Assassin's Creed series here.
Top to bottom.
Alright, I think I'm going to need a minute to get used to the hold right and space to free run and start. Oh, okay. There we go. Ezio Auditore da Firenze, sons of Giovanni and Maria. Born into luxury and leisure in 1459, Ezio spent his first 17 years of his life honing his rakish personality and ravishing looks. Women excited him, wine flushed him, and politics bored him. The streets of Florence were his home, and I doubt that he had much interest in anything outside its walls. But all that changed in 1476, when on trumped-up charges of treason, his father and brothers were jailed and sentenced to death. It was then that Ezio learned the truth about his beloved father, that he was an assassin, one of an elite group of freedom fighters dedicated to preserving and protecting human liberty and the exercise of free will. Following his father's brutal execution at the hands of a former friend, Ezio went underground and joined the assassins himself. Over the next 3 decades, Ezio dedicated himself to 2 parallel pursuits: to find and kill Rodrigo Borgia, the man most responsible for the death of his father and brothers, and to strengthen the assassin order. Rodrigo proved to be a challenge, and it took Ezio some 20 years to corner and defang him, by which point our hero's thirst for vengeance had softened. But sparing Pope Rodrigo turned out to be a strange blessing, for it was through the old man's meddling that Ezio came caught his first glimpse of the ones who came before, a mysterious race of people who lived many millennia before recorded human history. Ezio did not understand the messages left behind by the first civilization, but he never forgot what he saw either. And he scored a pretty cool artifact for all his pains too, the Apple of Eden. Shortly after sparing Rodrigo's life, the Pope's young son Cesare launched an attack on the Auditore family villa, killing Ezio's uncle Mario and stealing the Apple of Eden. By the way, I really love this introduction. I know quite a bit about Machiavelli, and as a result, that means that, sort of tangentially, I know about Cesare Borgia. And I thought he had a really great introduction in the second... I think it's the second of the Assassin's Creed 2 games, if that makes sense. That hurt, it stung hard, and it took Ezio another half-decade to recover the apple and erase Cesare from the world. But after that, all was well for the most part. As much peace as an assassin could expect, Ezio spent the next few years shoring up his resources, training his recruits, and sharpening his skills as a master and a mentor. As Ezio matured in these later years, so did many of his stranger abilities, not least of which was a rare form of extrasensory perception. You know, what we assassins call eagle sense in its most robust form. We can't be certain where eagle sense comes from, but we've got ideas. Remnants of ancient liaisons between our forebears and the ones who came before, probably. It's hard to say how, but the truth is stronger than fiction. In any case, eagle sense was strong with Ezio. I got a little taste myself in the short time I spent with him, but since my time with him went dark much sooner than yours did, I never got the full experience. But you, Desmond, because of the Animus's bleeding effect, your time with Ezio and with Altair has awakened your latent senses in ways that few could have imagined. So you can thank Mr. Auditore for that, for doing all his homework, so you didn't have to.
Damn this blizzard! It could be anywhere! You get escape! What the hell are you standing around for? Make yourself useful!
I didn't even have to try on that. One of the things I like the most... Oh, I'll let the cutscene go by. So one of the things I really like about Assassin's Creed is how naturally it's sort of the controls go. So like basically I don't need to push a very complicated set of controls to achieve a lot of these interesting sort of like jumping effects and such. It just sort of infers from where I am as to what my my actions will be. Now sometimes this doesn't quite work as intended, but I think by and large Assassin's Creed makes it very natural to kind of achieve a lot of these really impressive looking moves. I think part of this too is just a reflection of the fact that this is designed for controllers, and so they kind of want to make it as easy as possible. But it strikes me as something that's actually very hard to do, and probably is something that people take for granted about this game, but actually is the product of a lot of thinking on the part of the designers, especially sort of in the first game. One of the other things too is like I never really appreciated what snow looks like when you see wind like this until I moved to Ottawa, and now I know exactly what this looks like in real life. Ah! Let me go! Let me go!
Ah, got you now.
Not quite sure how I did some of that, but there you go. Use lift, hold, right, and move towards it. Thanks, Jess. Common gets more and more ridiculous as the game. Yeah, so Morty, I've played the other two. Oh yeah. I always love doing one of these. Oh, I was hoping to pull him over the edge. Well, I'm sure I'll learn this eventually. You never seen this done with a keyboard and mouse before? You have a hard enough time playing this game with a controller? Yeah, I mean, for most games that I play, I usually do it as a, I usually do with a keyboard. Ever since I've started playing Dark Souls, I tend to, I've sort of loosened the restriction, but my preference for a game is normally to, play it with a controller, or says to play it with a keyboard if I can. One of the things that I realized when I first played, I think it was Assassin's Creed. Oh, that's right, I can loot. I think one of the first things I realized when I was playing Assassin's Creed 2 was how relatively easy a lot of the combat felt. How do I put it? Like. And then I reflected on the fact that, like, I didn't... So I think it was maybe the first time... So, again, just for those of you who don't know a little bit about my biography, there was an extended period where I didn't play any games. So, like, I can kind of remember playing Counter-Strike 1.6. Like, that was sort of one of the last things I remember really playing a lot. I think it was 1.6. Anyways, it was, like, Counter-Strike in a fairly late version of the original game. And, press F to lock onto your target, and then press F to perform an air assassination. Okay. I guess there's no way back up there, though. Oh, yes there is. Yeah, so what was I going to say? And then, you know, I eventually got a... Well, one, I played some games at a friend's place, and I kind of got to appreciate what... what modern games look like. Oop. It's probably an achievement for... What the hell? So anyways, so eventually I got an appreciation. By the way, I thought I had a sword, but I'll live with it. So, kind of after that hiatus from gaming, I eventually got to appreciate sort of what modern games looked like, and it looked like virtual reality. And I suppose one of the things I didn't quite appreciate was this complaint that people had made that, you know, modern games are too easy.
Be merciful, please. I am a working man with a family.
Doing what kind of work?
Digging mostly. It took me a year to find this chamber. And for the past 3 months, I've been trying to break through this door.
You've not made much progress.
I have not made a dent. This stone is harder than steel.
I doubt you will. This door is guarding objects more valuable than all the gold in the world.
Ah, do you mean gemstones?
There are keyholes here. Where are the keys?
These Templars found one beneath the Ottoman Sultan's palace. As for the others, I suppose the little book will tell them.
What book?
A journal of some kind. That ugly captain, he carries it with him wherever he goes.
Go home. Find work with honest men.
Oh, I would love to leave this place. But these men, they will murder me if I try.
Pack your tools.
Mysterious journal has been brought to the has brought the Templars to Messiah. Find the Templar captain and recover it, and do not fail a single tale. I don't think I quite follow what they mean by tale, but anyways, so the complaint that sort of modern games were a little too easy was a bit of a mystery to me, but that was because I was largely sort of ignorant of what it was like. I still have never played any of the Far Cry games, for instance. But one of the things that I realized playing Assassin's Creed 2 was that it's like, okay, yeah, I sort of get... Thanks, Jeff. I think I sort of get where that complaint might come from. So for instance, other than maybe a couple of like learning the controls sort of glitches, like I didn't really feel that any of these fights were particularly arduous. This is of course the tutorial, by the way, so it's probably working as intended. But I remember in Assassin's Creed 2, like, I remember really enjoying the ride. And it was like, it didn't really matter to me that I needed to keep doing the same fight over and over and over again. Like, the entertainment of the game was sort of sufficient. So, I don't know, it's a taste thing. I mean, obviously I enjoy challenging games. I like... I remember this from the first Assassin's Creed game. This is really nicely done. But I've never felt it I guess I've never really felt it to be a requirement.
Must not get his hands on that book. When we reach Leandros, we will escort him out of the village. You stay behind and make sure we're not followed.
Alright, so I remember in Assassin's Creed 2, I'd usually be seen as suspicious if I was walking up to these guys. Yeah. Alright, now I'm going to assume that they're not supposed to be all clustered around like that. So it looks like one of these guys is trying to walk and is being blocked by the others. So how I'm supposed to get past them stealthily, I don't think that's going to be possible with this setup. I don't know, we'll try it. Yeah, no way to climb up there. It's really weird to remember like these areas so well from the first Assassin's Creed game. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna have to go in like a monster. Unless I can like run up and jump over these guys to get onto the ladder.
That one looks fun.
Oh, so it does. It seems like it doesn't matter that you. It seems like it doesn't matter that I'm going into combat with these guys. All right, cool. Always go for the loot. I know this is probably a slow run through the tutorial, but it doesn't. One, I don't mind learning the mechanics again, and I don't know, gives me content. I am kind of hoping, so I'll admit, I actually, I specifically chose a new Assassin's Creed game when I got my video card to build the gaming PC, and I intended to play it a lot sooner than I actually have wound up doing it, but it'd be neat to do all the Assassin's Creed between this one and the Assassin's Creed game that I picked up. I'm not going to tell you which one it is, by the way. I've got something really cool in mind for how I'm going to, I'm actually going to do the, for how I'm going to do the one that I have.
Isn't that clock? Wait a minute.
Oops. Whoa, where'd that come from? But yeah, so I've got, I'm going to do the series where I can, because one of the things that I think is so interesting about this, this series, obviously the historical connections. I think sometimes it's a little bit of a missed opportunity when they deliberately divert from history, and I know they acknowledge that fact. And the funny thing is that the history that these games deal with is actually usually as interesting as the dramatized stuff that they come up with. And again, I don't necessarily think it's a failing. I am not one of those people who feel that the Assassin's Creed series should aspire to maximum accuracy. But it'd be kind of neat for the things that I understand, at least, to be able to use the parrot. How the fuck am I supposed to use the parrot? Ah. But yeah, I think it would be really, it'd be really neat to sort of talk about what was happening in history when, you know, when the events of this particular, well, basically what was going on in the world in these particular times. So, I mean, obviously the Renaissance is huge, but this is at the end of Ezio's life. And so, I don't know, there might be, I think this one's supposed to take place in Constantinople, so in this case, probably it would make sense to talk about the Ottoman Empire, which I don't know as much about. Oops.
Well, that's certainly ambitious.
Sorry, dude. And yeah, I will admit, Johnny Big Time, the some of the kills on the counterattacks are incredibly satisfying. Although I think that's working as intended. Like it's hard to it's kind of hard to turn around and say, okay, we're gonna. Hey, we made it.
None of you leave until the assassin is dead. Do you understand?
Ignore me, Kirilo. But he seems to have found us.
On it! On it!
By the way, I think this is such a good feature in a game to be able to let you run around with the controls in the loading screen. It's actually that was really helpful when I first played this to. Oh, this is cool. Ah!
He's behind us!
What are you doing? Down. Die, you bastard!
Well, crap, game. Damn it! Yeah, it really helped me when I first played these games to actually learn the controls. I think there's a built-in difficulty in these narrow passages, so if you've been neglecting your move up, then you'd actually find this you'd find this a little bit harder because you're like being dragged all over the place. I can't seem to move up any further though. Damn it!
Closer! Get closer! Closer! Move! Way! Go to hell!
Is that really necessary?
You again!
So this is another thing that I really like. I don't know if this is going to come up later on in the game, but I actually love the idea of sort of this carriage race. This is a little bit like Ben-Hur almost. But to have this moment where like it almost feels like they're sort of setting you up for all the new mechanics that they're going to be introducing later on in the game. And I mean, again, it's just really cool, right? It's Hollywood. Ah, God damn it. Oof. It's pretty inconvenient timings. Oop. No! Ah, God. Yeah, so I think I'm wondering if there's a pattern in terms of when they crash, because like they're very successful in terms of just like throwing me off the edge. So that's a fantastic example of that. Like basically, you always lose that like running up against them competition like that. So if you don't time it well, they throw you onto the rocks like here, and it doesn't seem like there's really a whole lot of these equivalent areas on the enemy side. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get him here. There we go. So I'm gonna try and see, and then they hit me with the same trick again. But yeah, I'm gonna try and pay a little more attention to what's coming up.
Take this! Die, you bastard! Stop him! Stop him!
Actually, speaking of hard drive 100% sync, I don't think there was any special thing for me to do there.
Do not take your eyes off this road for a moment. Do you understand me? Nothing gets through.
Leandros! There!
Well, well. Look what crawled out of its hole to die. He's at death's door. Finish him off. Bring me his head, or throw yourselves into the canyon.
The Wounded Eagle. The Templar Captain Leandros has left you to die. Find and kill him, then retrieve his journal. And I need to kill at least 5 guards from a haystack. If I can, I'll try and go for the 100% syncs, but not not at the expense of like making progress in the game. I feel like there should be a way to heal up as well, but I'm sure it'll introduce it sooner or later. Ooh. One of the other things I really love about that introduction, so obviously they raise the stakes each time, right? So it's like, okay, you got to crawl up onto the carriage. Now you're on the carriage. Okay, now not only are you on the carriage, but you're on the edge of a cliff and things like that. It's, I don't know, it's a nice little technique. And then of course there's meter fills with yellow when the guards are detected. Okay, yeah, that's not at all surprising. It's kind of funny that they introduced this just because obviously it's kind of funny that they introduced this at that mechanic at this point precisely because we've actually already experienced it. The other thing is obviously there's the MacGuffin, so we're looking for some kind of a journal or something like that. We have no idea what it contains, but it's sort of enough to kind of push you forward throughout the story. I mean, obviously, when you're playing a video game, you can always motivate it by it's fun.
This used to be so easy.
But I think it's always kind of, I like it at least when a game tries to motivate the behavior. Like a great example would be Wolfenstein: The New Order, right? Which gives you, I think an unparalleled first-person experience. But where are these haystacks? But on top of that, you get this really cool little bit of historical fiction, kind of like a Man in the High Castle sort of a story. Well, like I said, Pyrobama, I'd like to try and get 100% sync where I can. but not at the expense of making progress in the story, because in the end I think telling a good yarn and kind of moving on to the next in the series is the higher priority for me. I definitely like, I like being given challenges in a game, and I've never felt obligated. Okay, so it seems like I'm not able to run on any of these. I've never felt particularly obligated to do them, although I usually want to, just because, you know, that's sort of the way I play games. Ooh, okay.
Good cover there.
What is he doing to him in that haystack? I want to kind of try and pique their interest, but not so much that they alert. Alright, here we go. I'm probably going to wind up alerting them, but let's see what we can do. Arrivederci! They really do, Jess. There's what was it? There's a movie called Magnificent Men and Their Flying Machines, which has like a haystack loving scene. Where I even remember, like, when I first saw that, I was like a little kid. And I'm like, that seems like. He's not gonna come near the haystack. Hey, fucker.
That's a fun get up. Wait.
I don't think that counts as from the haystack. A for effort, though.
There is something very odd about that one. Where do I know that man?
Of course, if I was the assassin, I'd totally leave them in like compromising positions in the haystack, but that's, you know, just for me. Surely it will tell me if I've achieved the requisite number of haystack kills. Let's see if we can find a closer one too, because I don't want to be dragging these guys all over the map. I think Eagle Sense was Q? Nope. R? Maybe tab. No, tab is the... V. Does Eagle Vision tell you where the haystacks are? Okay, see you in a bit, Jess. I always like this feature of the Assassin's Creed games. There's just a nice visual way of letting you know when you were in cover and when you weren't. And again, actually, this kind of reflects some of the things that I say about Crusader Kings. Is one of the things I tend to respect quite a bit about games, and one of the things that attracts me to them, are how much information they can sort of display visually. It's usually better if you can to show, not tell. And I mean, this applies to a lot of things. This applies to movies. This applies to even in a lot of parts of economics. If you can get a very good graph to sort of make your point, this is usually a little more effective than, say, you know, how do I put it? Like a aha. It's usually a little more effective than sort of like 2 pages of elaborate arguments. Ah, here we go.
What an oddly cut cloak. Skata, I want no part of this.
I do Pyrobyma. We actually got to play it a little bit before. We got to play it a little bit before release date. Paradox was nice enough to give me an early copy, so it did make it. I actually found it a little complicated to stream it in that particular case. Oh, you know what? I probably can't jump up and down things because I'm supposedly near death's door. So I need to find the. That's right. I was supposed to find the guards. I was supposed to find the captain's trail from. Probably going the wrong way. There we go. So I did find it a little complicated because you're not supposed to do sort of tutorial style coverage with an early access copy. I think this is probably because you know, people sort of make a career out of doing tutorial style things, right? And so I don't think they want early access to be, you know, oh, here's how you get, here's how you get like an economic advantage over other casters. But yeah, as far as recommendations are concerned, so I mean, obviously keep in mind that there is at least a perception of a conflict through the fact I've received a free copy. But here's what I'll tell you, Pyrobyma, in terms of.
Could it be that you are every bit as deadly as the legends say? Or am I in charge of an army of drunks swinging sticks?
These are not mutually exclusive.
Right this way, Ezio. Nowhere left to run now.
Not for me, and not for you.
Nice.
Kill that dog! Cut him down!
Die! There! Don't lose him again!
So, that is a badass animation. So, here's what I think Monks and Mystics adds to the game. I think one of the biggest features that Monks and Mystics is about is sort of figuring out how to Is this medicine? Yes.
That dulls the pain.
Reach the Templar captain. Oop. Acrobatic abilities recovered. Excellent. Welcome back, Jesse Bill. So, would I recommend Monks and Mystics? Again, I'm always a little cautious whenever I make recommendations because I feel like one of the things that I admire the most about Elkanu's channel is the fact that he can play games which aren't necessarily very good ones, but still give them a really fair shot. I quite like Monks and Mystics, so that will be sort of my first move towards a recommendation. But the fact that I like something does not necessarily indicate that it's worth getting. And so maybe something a little more elaborate that I will give is, I I think what Monks and Mystics does is it sort of deals with the problem of a... It deals sort of the problem with, let's say, a sagging... nope. There we go. It deals kind of with the problem of maybe a sagging, like, middle game. I can't even say middle game in the sense of, like, an overall playthrough, but rather the idea of... I can't get any purchase on this wall. Oh, here we go. Man, this guy really loves using... Forgive me, sir, but I don't think henchmen are ranged weapons.
What does it take to kill you, eh? Why will you not die?
Don't you ever stop howling.
Sorry, I wanted the story to finish before I...
Well, the old hound still has a bite.
The book you carry, where is it?
Niccolo Polo's journal. This will do you no good. Not now. We have found one of the Masyaf keys already, and are closing in on the rest.
What is in that library is not for you, not for the Templars.
You can have Altair's books, Ezio. We only want guidance. We only want directions. To the location of the Grand Temple.
Grand Temple? Tell me more, now. Requiescat in pace, bastardo.
Never would have guessed what bastardo means. Alright. Let's see if I can, Nope. No, I cannot. I will give you an answer, Pyrobomb, as soon as there isn't story stuff I'm going to talk over.
This apple. It is a remarkable piece of work. Feel the material, hard as steel, but very light.
You really want to be fooling with that thing?
I do. I absolutely do. I have been waiting a long time to get my hands on one of these.
Okay, you're making me nervous, Bill.
Don't be. I don't think I have the right genes to properly wield it.
Oh, but Desmond, you think he does?
What the hell just happened? You were snooping. Wandering outside the Desmond partition. So once the Animus located you, it pulled you back here. It's just following orders. Like a
German
fail-safe program.
Oh, never mind.
Trying to keep your poor head intact, whether you like it or not.
What are you doing here exactly?
Playing. Learning. Waiting. A lot of waiting. I keep the Animus distracted as best I can. For you, so you can explore. Otherwise it might hunt you down like a little virus and, delete you.
Well, my guardian angel.
There's no such thing.
Yeah, Thanks.
Alright, so, the new Crusader Kings DLC. So I think one of the things that the game addresses the most...
Sean, it's
is...
me.
Oh.
What's happening?
Are you at the airport?
Yeah, we're chartering a jet. Are you coming?
Yes, yeah. I'll be there soon.
Good.
They buried her already.
I heard.
In a little cemetery outside Rome. Nice place.
God, things got so fucked up so fast.
Is Desmond still out?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of brain activity, but with the monitoring system shut down, we can't record anything.
Well, keep me posted, okay? I'll see you soon.
I wasn't sure if I'm supposed to go through this thing or through any other ones. All right, so new Crusader Kings DLC. I think one of the big things about let's see what the escape menu has to say. Oh, it says nothing. What's the tab menu say? Exact same thing as the escape menu. So maybe I'll try going through this portal again just to see what happens. But only after I explain the new DLC. So one of the things that I think this DLC addresses the most. Now keep in mind the developer diary. Like, I haven't read the developer diaries yet. I've said this a couple of times. It's possible you'll go and read it and find out this is exactly the opposite intention that they had. But I think one of the things that the DLC addresses the most is the idea of what do I do while I'm waiting for my plans to come into place, especially for things like counts when you try and make a casus belli, which is going to take such a long time to bring about. So there's a couple of things that they've done to sort of help the waiting period. One, you don't need to micromanage your council anymore. The council will actually have a few different neat. Oh, this is kind of neat. So there's like a currency that you need to sort of start unlocking different memories. That's a neat idea. Maybe they had that in the other game and I never noticed it before. But so each counselor now has a fourth option. So scheme is now an example of one of these default options where you don't need to place them somewhere. This is just automatically going to happen. Like your steward's automatically going to improve prosperity scores and things like that. Now you can still do the old things, right? But basically there's now some moves. So like if you don't want to do a CB and you're not sure what noble to improve your relations with, you can put your chancellor on just kind of like generic diplomat duty, which is going to slowly increase, some relations with just random members of the court, which I think is a good addition. And then there's the secret societies, which I think is a great option. So I'm playing a member of the Holy Roman Empire. So for me, there are 4 options. There's the Benedictines, there's the Dominicans. So these are 2 sort of monastic orders. And then, now I shouldn't mention Pyrobama, so I believe that feature has actually been added for free as part of the patch. But the thing that you pay for are the orders. So there's the 2 monastic orders, the Benedictines and the Dominicans. And then there's the Hermetic Society, which is obviously maybe something a little bit outside the bounds of Christianity. And then there's Lucifer's Own. And there's roughly equivalents for each religion. So for instance, the Hashashin would appear in these Islamic groups. And again, these it's a little bit like Way of Life. Like they give you a whole bunch of story events based on which particular group you're in, and they'll give you missions. So like for the monastic orders, they'll ask you to like build a church or something like that. Or some of like the satanic ones sometimes involve like the kidnap or the conversion of particular individuals. So again, I think one of the things that makes it really interesting is it gives you more to do during periods where maybe you would have been sitting around waiting for something to happen in the game. In this case, it gives you a little bit more to sort of happen in between those events. So I quite like it.
Dear sister,
I'll obviously recommend it where I can,
is overrun by a battery of Templars,
that gives you a reason for
and
why
the
you might or
motive is
might not
clear.
like it.
They desire the secrets locked away in Altair's library. Secrets they believe will lead them to something called the Grand Temple. Whether or not this is true, I do know the library is real. I have seen its door for myself. But none can enter. Not without 5 keys which were sent to Constantinople with Niccolo Polo almost 300 years ago. Claudia, I must find these keys. The Templars have already located one, and I do not know how difficult it will be to find the others. Only time, skill, and a bit of luck will tell.
Constantinople, May 1511.
magnificent sight.
It is a work in progress.
No city in Europa has a skyline quite like this.
Well, to be precise, that is Europa. That is Asia.
Ah. Some borders even the Ottomans cannot move.
Very few. You are Italian by the sound of it, but your outfit is not. Have you been traveling long?
Sì, da molto tempo. I left Rome 12 months ago, looking for inspiration. And that search brought me here. When I was a child, my father told me stories about the fall of Constantinople.
You must mean the conquest of Constantinople. I suppose the moral of any story matches the temper of the man telling it.
That we can agree on.
Güzel. Constantinople is a city for all kinds and creeds. Students like me or travelers such as yourself. I have so much work to return to. But it is good to be home.
Work? When I was your age, my interests were mainly salve.
Incredible. I am surprised you got anything done.
As was my mother.
It was a pleasure speaking with you, Bey Effendi. I hope you find something to hold your interest here.
I have faith I will.
Yardım edebilir miyim efendim?
Grazie, dear boy.
A scholar and a gentleman. You are full of surprises.
Very few, my friend. Eksik olmayın.
Hoş geldin kardeşim. Unless the legend is a lie, you are the man I long to meet. Renowned master and mentor. Ezio Auditore de la.
Prego.
Forgive me. I have a hard time remembering that Italian gibberish.
Da Firenze, the city where I was born.
Ah, yes. So, by your custom, I would be Yusuf Kazim da Istanbul. I like that.
Istanbul. Yet another name for this city.
Evet, it's a local favorite. Come, Mentor da Firenze. I will show you around.
Incidentally, that means Leonardo da Vinci, which probably most of you know is not a surname, but rather the name he came from the city of Vinci. Yeah, just equal. I mean, this is the big thing, is whenever it comes to... So this is a little bit like the problem people run into with the, let's say, the appropriation of the term feminism for decidedly illiberal kind of perspective on issues such as speech. I choose, if I can, not to play that game where, I'd rather not poison a term or a saying that I think has a lot of use. So gentleman and a scholar is a wonderful compliment, and I choose to continue using it as a compliment. And if the Nick Beard class wants to try and use it, they're welcome to, but I'd rather not have it have those connotations. Similarly, when I talk of feminism, it is certainly not my intention to talk about the sorts of people who will shout the other side down or try to deplatform them. And of course, this is not exclusive to only some of the more extreme activists, but rather simply for it to mean the sorts of things that I think traditionally, historically at the very least, it means, and is normally, let's say normally, I think what most people are talking about when they say that they're in line with that kind of thinking. So guys, before I read the background here, I thought what would be kind of interesting, this is just Wikipedia, but if you take a look at the article, it can tell you, this article will give you kind of an overview of some events that happened in history. So this takes place in 1511. So this is going to be, after the first decade of the 1500s. So what happened in the 1500s? So what happened in the decade before? I'm just going to read off some of the points that they have. So Charles V, Holy Roman Emperor and King of Spain, was born. Probably not as interesting. Let's try and go for some of these. Let's Let's look for some of the more European-centered ones that were big. Portuguese navigator Pedro Álvares Cabral claims Brazil for Portugal. The Ottoman fleet of Kemal Reis defeats the Venetians at the Second Battle of Lepanto. Michelangelo returns to his native Florence to begin work on the statue of David. First reported African slaves in the New World, so of course we're in the Age of Discovery. I believe the Reformation is also occurring. Spain defeats France at the Battle of Carilonga, considered to be the first battle in the history won by gunpowder and small arms. Leonardo da Vinci begins painting the Mona Lisa and completes it 3 years later. Nostradamus, born on either December 14th or December 21st. Death of Christopher Columbus in Spain. First recorded epidemic of smallpox in the New World on the island of Hispaniola. It devastates the native Taino population. Michelangelo paints the Sistine Chapel from 1508 to 1512, so we're in the last year of the painting of the Sistine Chapel at this time. Great Plague in various parts of Tudor England. This is now 1509 to 1510. And I think that's all I really want to cover. I mean, there's obviously so much history you can go through, but I think, you know, when you think of maybe we can say this for the 10 years preceding this, and obviously this gives a very good reason for there to be hostility between Prince Suleiman and Ezio. So everyone in the world knew this guy's name in the 16th century. Suleiman the Magnificent, they called him in the West. The 10th Sultan of Osman's ever-expanding empire. His fellow Turks were also being generous with their plays, though far more practical, calling him Suleiman Kanwi, or the Lawgiver, the man responsible for improving the empire's bureaucratic engine, making it run like a well-oiled engine. No small feat for an empire as large as his. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Ahead of our present concerns, when Ezio met Suleiman, he was still a young man with only the faintest hope of ever becoming a sultan, since his father Selim was dead last in the Ottoman hierarchy. So, as befitting a young man of his status and stature, Suleiman threw himself into study with little thought of ever becoming sultan himself. He was educated at the University of Istanbul and received private tutoring in Topkapi Palace. Little else is known about his early years, except that he was a kind and thoughtful man, and that he had a servant named Ibrahim, whom he considered to be his best friend. By the time Suleiman was 17, however, Bayezid had recognized his grandson's talent and intelligence and installed him as the governor of a large region north of the Black Sea. Over the next few years, Suleiman would hold a number of similar positions until 1520, when an unexpected tragedy robbed his father of the sultanate. Suleiman, aged 26, took the throne, a position he would hold for almost 50 years. No pacifist, Suleiman would expand the Ottoman Empire's lands to its furthest points, and by the end of his rule, the lands under his command stretched from Algeria to the Persian Gulf, and from Austria down to Egypt. But for all his expansionist desires, he was a tolerant man too, and realized that the only way to keep an empire as large as his together was to honor the cultures, traditions, and religions of those living under his auspices, something that he actually would share in common with Alexander the Great. So this is one perhaps interesting feature of empires, is that the countries that become sort of hyperpowers, this is an argument presented by Amy Chua, are actually relatively tolerant for their time. And the idea here is that no one, I've said this in Crusader Kings, but no one generation of a particular people or a particular sort of look or set of beliefs is going to have all the best ideas. So for instance, IBM is actually very famous for having HR policies that sort of predate any civil rights legislation in the United States. And in fact, Thomas Watson, the guy who's most responsible for sort of making IBM, was pretty clear in why he would do it, which was if his competitors were willing to throw away perfectly good talent, then he was happy to snap them up. So the idea here is that if you are a prejudiced employer, if you don't hire black people, or you don't hire women, or you don't hire homosexuals, what you are doing, you're either assuming that nobody from those particular groups will generate like world-class talent, or you're very specifically denying yourself the opportunity to have that talent. And what Watson saw this as, and what IBM continues to do, is to see this as an opportunity to push forward their advantage. And I think the success of IBM may speak for itself. This applies to countries too. So if you look at the Dutch Empire, this was a country which was able to overcome the religious intolerance of its time, that Catholics and Protestants existed within the Netherlands. In fact, this is why that referendum that happened in the Netherlands was so important, because the possibility of Geert Wilders and the PVV was a reversal from this tradition. The Roman Empire was an empire which actually had people who were not born as Romans who became emperor. Now again, there's also some things in the Roman Empire that make it very intolerant by modern standards, but the idea is that, you sort of have to look at them within the context of their time. Chua's prediction is that this is actually what prevents China from becoming a hyperpower, because they have not been able to sort of achieve the level of tolerance that she believes is a necessary condition for this. This doesn't mean that China will not be successful, but it won't become successful as one of these massive empires. And Suleiman is possibly the greatest ruler of the Ottoman Empire, certainly had it at its peak. And what is inherent in this style of governance is recognizing that it is not important to legislate. It's not important to sort of drill down into the minds of the people and force them. You don't want a North Korea scenario where you are trying to manipulate people's brains to think a particular way, but rather to allow sort of people to flourish within the confines of this state. It's obviously why the immigration debates going on right now are very important, because again, there's a lot of very legitimate concerns that people have, but what you don't want to do is you do not want to deny your country the ability to grow from having other ideas come in, because the historical precedent has been that the more people you allow in, the more ideas that you allow to go inside, the better off you are. And this is why I really like that line that he has in his dialogue with Ezio, is like, suppose it depends on the teller of the story, because within Assassin's Creed you have sort of this tension between the Assassins and the Templars. Now obviously the Templars represent something very different from what Suleiman is doing here, which is, this relative tolerance. And I mean, obviously I'm sort of painting with a very broad brush. There's some history where you can say, well, do you think that Suleiman is actually a very good representation of these kinds of ideals? But I think there's a reason why you see common cause between the Assassins and Ezio, because of course the Templars are presented as this very controlling feature. But what's also inherent inside the Assassin's Creed stories are these tensions within, who is right. Perhaps humanity does need guardianship. I have some friends who live in China. They've moved from the West and they live in China now. Westerners, that don't have Chinese parents or anything like that. They went to teach English and they fell in love with the country. But his view is that China is not governed, it is ruled, and his belief is that democracy is inappropriate for China. That it is actually a country that needs to be ruled. To me is fundamentally mistaken. In my view, I am much more interested in seeing sort of an increase in human flourishing, and at the individual level. And I don't feel that you can have, however benevolent, a single ruler just sort of tilting the dials and allowing people to achieve that. I think this happens when individuals are making their decision. But in that little bit of dialogue, you've got the tension between the Assassins and the Templars. This idea that, do you need a steady hand at the wheel, and that there are some things that need to be given up in order to achieve greatness, which is sort of the Templar view? Or do you have this very important ideal of individual liberties, individual ideas, which tends to be something associated more with the Assassins? And again, within the game, even though you take the assassin role, they do sometimes try and say, well, maybe the Templars really aren't the bad guys. Here's some things that they've given us. Although again, I do think that they are, I don't necessarily see this as, especially, I don't necessarily see the Templars as particularly sympathetic in this game. And I'll also say I'm much more on the side of the Assassins anyway. But I like this theme because in the end you can put it through a few different things. When I was talking with Jesse Quill, right, when we have this idea of, when we're talking about, you know, extreme feminists, you know, who want to put a trigger warning on everything and want to control what you say. There are different ways of looking at the world. I'll get on to the next little bit of lore where I can, but I think this is a worthwhile discussion because it's, you know, it ultimately ties to the themes of this series. You know, you've got sort of a view of the world which says, you know, some people are just inherently ignorant, or one generation's going to be ignorant. That, you know, somebody who believed in slavery is always going to believe in slavery, and you don't have much hope for converting them. So we either need to teach the next generation that slavery is bad, or we need to legislate to force people to understand that slavery is wrong. And, you know, obviously, I suppose slavery is a difficult one because that is actually one that you need a law for, right? That, you know, people are not property. That is actually something that I suppose should be enshrined in law. But maybe the idea of, like, maybe say, I'm probably going to get in trouble sort of taking on these topics, but maybe a quota, a gender quota in a workplace, or, you know, whether or not you can say particular words and what they mean. This is something that sort of says, you know, you could put people in the basket of deplorables and, you know, there's no hope for them. We shouldn't even try. And what we need to do is we need to regulate what they do to make sure that it doesn't harm people. And then you have the other side, which sort of says that there is a conversation to be had that I mean, this is ultimately the argument for free speech, right? Which is that the only mechanism through which we are able to resolve these tensions is dialogue. And that, as unpleasant as it is, where you have these figures, I'll say the initials MY, and those of you who know who it is can figure it out, and those of you who don't know it is are not going to, you know, are not going to give him any more attention than he deserves. That even that kind of language ultimately needs some form of protection, because in the end, the resolution of that should be the better argument winning out, not something squashing it down. And again, this is the difference between the assassin view, which is the exchange of ideas and, you know, everything is permitted, or the Templar view, which is that people need to be ordered to be good. And I just like the fact that there's all these different, I like the fact that kind of this tension sort of just gets layered throughout the game. So I think I probably just lost a bunch of people saying that, but whatever, it's my channel. All right, we also had the Golden Horn, I think. What about the other database? Oh wow, we've got a few things here. Okay. I might need a quick poll. I don't know how many people are still watching right now, but I actually wanted to go out and make a quick trip to the bookstore. It closes at 9, so I technically have an hour and a half, but I know it takes me half an hour to get there. So I was thinking possibly of maybe putting a break in the cast and then coming back for Deus Ex. Oh, excellent, Johnny. Sorry, I know I just hadn't seen you chat for a little bit. So I guess the biggest thing that I could say, guys, is I can keep going, and maybe I'll just do the bookstore another day. We can call it here because we're now in Constantinople. I'll get my running around done, and then I can come back and we can do either Deus Ex or Assassin's Creed. I'd love some feedback in terms of what you guys would like to see. Or I don't mind trying and powering through it, but oh, excellent, Johnny. Yeah, sorry. I feel very needy when I say stuff like that, but I really like having you around. So, but yeah, guys, I'm going to be reading these entries anyway. But I'd love some thoughts about what you guys would like to see tonight, and maybe what the rest of the plan is. So, well, I may not get the books because they might be cheaper on like Amazon or something like that. But I'll at least take a look, and I'll use Jesse Quill's Amazon link. The Golden Horn, or Halleck, meaning waterway, is an estuary following into the Bosphorus Strait that bisects Constantinople into its northern and southern halves. Because of its breadth and depth, the Golden Horn was served as a natural harbor since the days of ancient Byzantium. In 1502, after the succession of violence between the Ottomans and the Venetians, Sultan Bayezid II invited the famous Florentine Leonardo da Vinci to submit a design for a bridge that would span the 250-meter wide section of the Golden Horn. Upon seeing Leonardo's design, however, the Sultan felt the project was too ambitious and scrapped the idea. 4 years later, Bayezid extended the same invitation to a young artist named Michelangelo, but Michelangelo, being an avowed rival of Da Vinci's, refused the Sultan's invitation outright, evidently incensed that Leonardo had been asked first. Subject 16. Hello, I'm Clay Kazmarek. I think it's Polish. And I'm a number. Subject 16. Yes, we're all reducible in the end, right, 17? Just numbers. Ones and zeros. I proved that. The day before I offed myself, I created this little artificially intelligent construct talking to you now. Using the Animus and this incredible simulation capabilities, I copied myself, snapped that copy into 24 pieces and scattered them around these databanks. You found them, and you pieced me back together. Not bad, eh? Teamwork. Word on the street, of course, is that Clay, the real Clay, the assassin, Lucy's teammate, isn't alive anymore. He slit his wrists, if I heard right. Damn shame I never got to see that for him myself, but I can imagine. My head was... Pardon me, his head was swimming with images of his last moments for weeks, like he was rehearsing it, planning just how he'd do it. I even got around to finger painting the walls of his cell before checking out. Is that right? That bastard, I miss him, I really do. Sorry, this is getting confusing. The real Clay is gone and I've taken his place. Good enough, right? Good enough to still call me cousin, right, Desmond? Very distant cousins, you and me. Because somewhere back along our extensive family train, we both have Ezio to thank for the gift of life. Both of us are related to him, and both of us had a nice little jaunts through his memories. Although I had access to far fewer memories than you did. Figure that one out. I guess that's why you're so special. You're the convergence of several amazing bloodlines. So this is actually really interesting. This is an idea very similar to Soma, for those of you who watched it. The idea of this kind of this consciousness continuing on after in an artificial construct after death. But not me. No, I was just a promising lead, a stepping stone to get to you. Oh well, I played my part. What more can a man say? Very little, it turns out. Masyaf, hidden away in the Orontes Valley in what is now known as Syria, Masyaf was the headquarters of the Assassin Brotherhood in the Levant. Its proximity to Jerusalem, Acre, and Damascus made it a natural center of assassin influence in the region. By the Third Crusade, Masyaf had become the political, cultural, and geographical center of the Assassins. I've got a great idea for this that I'll say at the end of the cast. A training ground, an impenetrable fortress, a sanctuary, a vast library, and a base of operations for the Brotherhood. Masyaf was all of these things. Yet the public's perception of the Citadel was far less complete. For in those days, the Citadel and its inhabitants were kept isolated from the larger populace. Life within the walls of Masyaf was Spartan and strict, consisting of many regimented rituals and challenges, and it was an exclusive group, assassins, mostly men that were born into the order, not recruited, and trained at an early age to obey the mentor and adhere to the creed. In 1191, the Crusader commander Robert de Sable laid siege to the city and the castle. The assassins withstood the assault, but briefly succumbed to another enemy later in the same year when Grandmaster Al-Mualim betrayed the Brotherhood and briefly seized control of Masyaf using the powerful Apple of Eden artifact. His defeat at the hands of Altair ibn Lahad marked a turning point in the assassin ideology. In later years, the assassins gradually abandoned many of the unnecessary rituals enforced by Al-Mualim. Over time, Altair, now a mentor himself, accepted to transform Masyaf into a place of learning and healing, opening the Citadel's doors to recruits from around the world, and for a time, he succeeded exceptionally well. So just thinking, the idea that Masyaf is in Syria, and Syria is a source of tremendous conflict at the moment, it'd be very interesting if the modern story decided to take something of a political turn. That with what's been happening in terms of things such as the Islamic State and that, the idea of a third faction that's brought in. And this is interesting too, perhaps you could say that the Islamic State is a reflection of Templars or Assassins, or perhaps more interestingly, a rogue faction of one of these groups, or perhaps, I don't know about these things who came first or something like that, but maybe an influence from them, although the problem here is that turns the evil that is performed by a group like this into something otherworldly. It would be like making the Nazis aliens, and the thing that is horrifying about the Nazis is that they were people. In fact, some of the most chilling photos I've seen are from concentration camps of like office parties. You know, like just everybody is smiling, and like there's obviously a guy flirting with one of the women, and like it's really, really grim stuff when you reflect that these were the kinds of things people were doing over a genocide. So to be able to say that, you know, these modern political events are being centered around maybe, again, a seizing of Messiah or something like that. But the conflict continues on today, and that there's some third element that's been brought in. I think that'd be kind of interesting, because right now the modern day story sort of focuses a lot on, as Jesse Quill pointed out, sort of the biological elements or something like that. But you can actually pull a little bit more about what's going on if you pull from the headlines and you sort of look at it in this context of sort of these different ideologies. I mean, obviously, the Islamic State is a very Templarish sort of look, which is you have the dictates from the top. You have to enforce this orthodoxy, but it's sort of hard to see it as as Templars as presented in this game so far. So maybe a rogue Templar group or something like that. I don't know, just an idea. Cappadocia, a rocky region in Anatolia, now known as the Nevşehir province of central Turkey. Cappadocia is an area best known for its sparse and rugged terrain and stunning rock formations. Because of this unique geography, Cappadocia has often existed apart from the empires that grew and flourished outside its borders. Alexander the Great, for instance, was unable to subdue the region fully during his lengthy military campaigns and was forced to settle for a nominally autonomous kingdom, led by its own king, existing within the borders of his own empire. Arid and open compared to Constantinople's lush density, Cappadocia is best known to outsiders for its 200 underground cities and villages, a few of which once housed and sheltered populations of over 10,000 people between the years 600 to 1400 BCE. Literally carved into the soft rock prevalent throughout the region, these cities were fully functioning colonies comprised of hundreds of narrow tunnels and caverns connecting dozens upon dozens of rooms, including living quarters, chapels, granaries, kitchens, wine and oil presses, ventilation shafts, and stables. The largest of these cities, Derinkuyu, was built to a depth of more than 85 meters and consisted of 11 interlocking levels with more than 50 ventilation shafts. Beginning of the 13th century, when the Byzantine Empire was crumbling and the emperors could no longer protect their subjects living on the ever-shrinking borders of the kingdom, wayward Christians took to living in the hidden cities for extended periods to stay hidden from the encroaching Muslim populations. It is unclear when these cities were eventually abandoned, but it is very likely that small populations occupied them in some capacity up until very recently, when the majority of the cities still intact were turned into tourist attractions. Constantinople, founded in 658 BCE on First Hill, Byzantium began life as a modest walled-in city-state populated by Doric Greeks. Its founder was Byzas, a soldier rumored to have been the son of Poseidon and the nymph Choressa. A devout man, Byzas had chosen the site of his new city based on a promising prophecy uttered by the Oracle of Apollo at Delphi. Greek fire. For centuries, the Byzantine Empire used Greek fire during naval battles. This gave them a great technological advantage and was responsible for its many key military victories, such as the salvation of Constantinople in 1203 from 2 Arab sieges. Incendiary weapons were used in warfare for centuries before the invention of Greek fire, but what set the Byzantine Greek fire apart was its unique formula, which would continue burning even underwater, and its use of pressurized siphons to project the liquid onto enemy ships. Some consider Greek fire the predecessor of modern napalm. The ingredients, the processes of manufacturing, and the precise deployment of Greek fire were extremely well-guarded military secrets. Knowledge and fabrication of the substance were highly divided, with operators and technicians aware of the secrets of only one component, ensuring that no enemy could gain knowledge of it in its entirety. For instance, some Bulgarians captured 36 Greek fire siphons in the early 9th century, but were unable to make any use of them. Finally, thieves. Following the example of legitimate craftsmen like miners, stonecutters, masons, and hangmen, many thieves in the Ottoman Empire were members of organized guilds, most of which were well known to the police on account of their frequent bribes and tributes the thieves paid to keep the authorities off their backs. The thieves were also mindful to target foreigners as often as possible so as not to upset the locals, which proved quite easy in cosmopolitan Constantinople. It must also be noted that the line between crook and cop was very porous in those days, as many of those police chosen to keep watch of the thieves were themselves former members of the larcenous classes. Mr. Franz, thank you very much for that host. Might actually be wrapping up fairly soon, but at 7:39. Let me just take a quick look. I might do a little bit of the Constantinople story, seeing as we still got some people here. So here's a question for you guys. no matter how much longer I go, would you be interested in seeing more Assassin's Creed, or would you be interested in seeing some Deus Ex tonight? Yeah, I hope you guys find the history stuff. Like, I find the history stuff pretty interesting. I will say that I know Assassin's Creed does take some liberties with history, but not to a level that I think you should. I don't know. How you doing, my God? Not to a point that I think like I'm not going to be one of those people who like shakes my fist at the heavens and says, "Why didn't they do it right?" Interesting. Oh, more reading. Abstergo has some data on this guy gathered a few years back, but there's not a lot about him in standard history books, which I'm sure he'd be happy to know. Yusuf Tanzim was a Turk born in Bursa around 1467, but was raised in Constantinople from the age of 8 by his mother. His father was an assassin, and presumably that's how Yusuf became one too. But there's no mention of what happened to Papa Tanzim. Was he killed? Did he desert the family? Your guess is as good as mine. By the time he was 17, Yusuf was well known around the city as a rabble-rouser and a petty thief, but a chance meeting with the legendary vizier Ishak Pasha changed all that. Ishak was an assassin too, operating in the Sublime Porte right under Bayezid II's nose. It was Ishak who had defended Vlad Tepes and later brokered the tentative truce between the Ottomans and the Assassin. Vlad Tepes is the inspiration of Dracula. By the late 1480s, he was busy recruiting open-minded citizens of the empire to his order's cause. Yusuf was taken back with Ishak's charisma and easy manner of leading, so he joined the assassins just before his 20th birthday. From there, Yusuf's rise was swift and assured by 1500 CE, and he made quite a name for himself. In 1502, Yusuf met with a continent of Venetian assassins in Greece in a joint effort to steer the Ottoman-Venetian War to a peaceful end. These efforts appear to have paid off, for in 1503 the fighting stopped, after ushering in a brief era of peace on the Ottoman Empire's western border. Perhaps made complacent by the assassin's success in keeping the peace, Sultan Bayezid II grew soft in his final decade, preferring his mystical texts and alchemical experiments to governing. This is a lot like the new DLC for Crusader Kings. This suited the assassins just fine, for a dull peace was preferable to endless war and imperial expansion. But following the earthquake in 1509, a new threat appeared in Constantinople, Templars fighting under the old Byzantine crest. Stirring from years of relative calm, Yusuf once again roused his assassins to begin the long and difficult fight ahead. Fringy Cat, thank you very much for that auto-host. A warm welcome. Master Assassin Yusuf Tanzim has welcomed you to Constantinople and would like you to give you a tour, get to know him and the city. In the biblical sense? Full synchronization, do not wander far from Yusuf.
Welcome to Galata district. For centuries, it has been a home to orphans from Europa and Asia alike. You won't find more diversity anywhere else in the city. And for that reason, assassins make it their home.
I would like to see where.
Kesinlikle. The Brotherhood is always eager to meet the man who put the Borgias out to pasture.
Oh. Does everyone in this city know I'm here already?
Well, your Holy Land tussle with the Templar did not go unnoticed.
When I first set out, violence was so far from my mind. I sought wisdom. The contents of Altair's library.
Not realizing it has been sealed for 3 centuries?
No, I assumed as much. But I never expected to find Templars guarding it.
Very troubling, no? 5 years ago, Templar influence here was minimal. A small faction with dreams of restoring the Byzantine throne. But they're growing in number, day by day. And with Sultan Bayezid on his way out, they may try something dramatic.
Is there no heir to the Ottoman throne?
Not just one, 2 angry sons. It's a familiar pattern with these royals. When the Sultan calls, the princes draw their swords.
between the Templars and the Ottomans. You must stay busy.
Ezio, I barely have time to polish my blade.
Kill him, damn it!
Leave some for me, eh?
Perform a kill and swiftly hit your next target by pressing left to kill him instantly, continuing chaining kills longer. Oh, cool. Vanguard Master, how you doing?
No. Watch.
Byzantium is dead, as are you.
The whole city wakens to welcome you, Ezio. First the regents, now the rats. Ottoman soldiers have a special loathing for these Byzantine thugs. That gives us some breathing room.
How much?
Just a little. They'll still kill you if you look at them wrong. But they will feel bad about it later.
Touching.
It's not so bad, really. For the first time in many decades, the assassins have a strong presence here.
I'm glad to be streaming Vanguard Master. I'll just warn you, I am actually going to be heading off for a little bit to do just a little running around, maybe picking up a book or something like that. But I need to get a Becherel and possibly a French grammar book. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be back probably within an hour or so. All right, excuse me. Galata Tower, built by Genoese settlers in 1348 as an expansion of their colony on the north shore of the city, Galata Tower was a key component to a larger defensive structure, most of which had been dismantled by the time of the Ottomans. In the 17th century, the tower is purported to have served as a launch point for one of the earliest sustained unpowered attempts at human flight. According to reports from a traveling historian, a man named Herzafin Ahmet Kelebi strapped himself onto a homemade glider one fine day in 1632 and threw himself off the tower's cornice. According to this one and the only eyewitnesses, Herzafin's flight took him over Galata and across the Bosphorus waterway, where he landed safely on the shores of the Asian continent. Awed by his apparently supernatural abilities, the Sultan Murad paid Herzafin a fat bag of gold coins, then banished him to Algeria, where he died some years later. Later in the 18th century, the Ottomans began using the tower to spot fires in and around the city, but by the late 20th century, the only fires of any concern to visitors of Galata Tower were those burning up the floor of the nightclub built at the tower's apex. That's right, dinner and dancing for a modest price, high above the world, a far cry from the rather staid impulses of the Middle Ages, no? Hey, Lady Dow, how you doing tonight?
It wasn't always that way. Under the Byzantine Emperor, the assassins were hunted down and killed on the spot.
I'm quite well, Lady Dow. Obviously doing something new, so there's going to be
almost there.
2 games that I'm playing through to completion, Deus Ex and Assassin's Creed. There's also a 3rd game that will be added to this lineup, which I will be playing in its entirety as well. And Jesse Quill and Johnny know what one that is, but it's been a secret for everybody else. Oops.
This way.
This is a nice one here where you kind of get an automatic follow. It's a really good series, Lady Dow. I've not played this one yet, so it seemed like a good place to start. And I also, you guys actually really are Johnny Big Time. I'm not kidding when I say that you, Jesse Quill, and El Canu are my 3 favorite streamers on Twitch. I mean that quite seriously, and your feedback on stuff actually means a lot. Oh, that's really cool, Lady Dow. Phantom Klepto, thank you very much for the host.
Mentor, say hello to your extended family.
Salute a voi, assassini. It is an honor to find such fast friends so far from home.
Have a good one, Mr. Franz.
You see, brothers? Our mentor is not afraid to weep openly in front of pupils.
Do not worry. I will not make a habit out of it.
Ezio and I were ambushed on the way here. I'd like some of you to do a sweep of the area. Hey, man! And you, Ezio. Your weapons and armor are in a pitiful state. Maybe find some money and repair what you can. There is a blacksmith nearby. He's a friend.
Buona idea.
That's funny. I was going to say, Lady Dog, I think it actually probably applies the same thing that I said in Dynamike's chat, just because I have 3 favorite streamers in the form of El Canu, Jesse Quill, and Johnny Big Time does not mean that that comes to the exclusion of others. Because I mean, a perfect example, right? I really like Dynamike's content. In fact, guys, I think it might be worth, maybe I should host him after I'm done this bit. Oof, it's getting close to 8. Place closes at 9, so I think we'll do upgrade and explore, and then we'll call it. Oh yeah, I know, but it's actually, I was gonna say, even with kidding things like that, is maybe less of a lecture to you, but actually a good reminder for people who are in the channel. Like, it's a little bit like, for those of you who follow me on Twitter, there's that thing I said about Dark Souls 2, where Ezio's equipment is not in good condition. Explore the Galata district and upgrade his equipment. You know, just because, you know, I chose this shirt to wear tonight. Actually, I wear this shirt pretty free. I really like my Fujifilm shirt, but like, just because I chose this shirt to wear today does not mean that I think my other shirts are bad. And it applies a lot. So like Dark Souls 2, right? I think Dark Souls 2 is a very good game, and I always get a little annoyed when I hear people complaining about it as the worst Dark Souls, because that, like, I understand that by definition, if you have 3 entries and you consider in terms of an ordinal ranking of quality that it is the 3rd one, that this is technically a true statement, and yet I don't feel it is a very fair assessment in terms of what people systematic events might occur as you walk around the city. Citizens in need of help may reward you for your assistance. All right. Earn enough money to buy new armor. Presumably pickpocketing may not be the best way to do that.
Get the bastard!
Nice, Jesse Quill. Alright, so apparently I'm a very bad pickpocket. Pigeons. Oh yeah, I always loved this thing, that the pigeons would be the indicator to allow you to do a leap of faith. Hopefully they're not mad at me for stealing again. Oh, yep, I pissed him off again.
Pixler! I have wondrous weapons and finely crafted armors for your benefit.
No armor requires repairs? Nonsense. A Zap leather spalders for 343? Sure. I actually, you know, that's really funny that you mentioned that, Jesse Quill, because I always felt bad when I stole from people, like citizens in Assassin's Creed games. I always felt that was not an appropriate behavior for a hero to do. I think she actually has a highlight of her Ezio cosplay, if I'm not mistaken. Jess, feel free to link that in chat if you'd like. Okay, tell you what, guys. Do you think now would be, let's say, is now a good time maybe for us to wrap up for an hour or so, and we can come back? If you guys, actually, so before I do this, guys, I'm going to find somebody to host, but do you have a preference between Assassin's Creed or Deus Ex when I return? Yeah, I know it's I mean, we only got about 2 hours in, and it's mostly just doing the tutorial, but I like this. So Assassin's Creed for Vanguard Master. Lady Dowd like Assassin's Creed. Looks like Dynamike's still doing Dark Souls, so he's absolutely getting a host. How many people do we have right now? 11. That's nice of you. I like getting double digits. Dynamike's killing it. He had like 40. I think he's got 30 people watching right now. So, started AC, so it makes sense to continue. Okay, so it looks like the people's choice is Assassin's Creed. I'm okay doing that. I would like eventually to return to Deus Ex, but I do. Johnny Big Time, I got to tell you a story about a producer who I worked with, and well, how do I save the progress? All right. But yeah, I know. I was gonna say there was a producer who I worked with, which that joke came from. So maybe we'll chat. Is there a way, by the way, for me to tell if I've got the DLC from? I'm assuming this means I've got at least some of the DLC. I don't know. I'll check it out. But I got this on Steam, so whatever the hell comes with the Steam version, I got. Anyways, guys, thank you very much for hanging out. I know it's a bit of a shorter stream, but like I said, I will be back in a little bit to take care of the rest of the stream. I'll do at least 4 hours if I can. I have all three. Okay, excellent. I'll try to do the 4 hours kind of like I do for a normal cast. We'll probably make all of that Assassin's Creed. And yeah, I should hopefully be within an hour, no more than 2 for sure. For those of you who can't make it, sorry about that. As always, follow Twitter and Twitch to know when I'm going online. As for the rest of you, we'll be in touch. For now, we're gonna get in touch with Dynamike. YT's doing Dark Souls. He's actually quite good at it. I was surprised at how good he is at Dark Souls. But he's a lot of fun. I definitely recommend you guys sticking around, and definitely please drop that raid message. We're tired of system talk. Heard this place was better. Great. Thank you very much for doing that, Jesse Quill. And I'll rip that host away from him in a minute when I go online. So thanks a lot. We'll see you next time, which is in a couple of hours.